was Reverend Clarence LaVaughn Franklin. You may know him as C.L. Franklin, the father of the great Aretha Franklin, and the pastor at New Bethel Baptist Church. The other minister who was one of the leaders of this group that brought this together was Reverend Albert Clegg, who was the pastor at Central Congregational Church, later Central United Church of Christ, and now the Shrines of the Black Madonna. So after that, shortly after that march, there was, the police killed a woman, Cynthia Scott. She was murdered on July 23rd, so about a month after the march. And of course, the forces that were like Reverend Clegg were more radical. They wanted really to do something about this. And Reverend Clarence LaVaughn Franklin was more civil rights oriented and less, Black power oriented, Black nationalist, more radical oriented. So Reverend Clarence LaVaughn Franklin was with a group of people who wanted to do something. They wanted to go to the police department and let them know this was wrong and find some way to change this from happening. But of course, groups that were close to Reverend Albert Clegg wanted to do more. So there was a falling out between the two. So Albert Clegg and Reverend Franklin fell out. Later that year, Reverend Franklin wanted to organize a leadership conference down at Cobo Hall and wanted to bring Martin Luther King Jr. back to Detroit. And Reverend Clegg wanted to have some people at that leadership conference too, including Malcolm X, who was Reverend Clegg's friend. Now, Franklin knew that I'm not going to let you bring Malcolm on the stage with Martin Luther King Jr. because I know what will happen. So there were two conferences on the same weekend, November 10th, 1963. One conference was at Cobo Hall. The other conference was at King Solomon Baptist Church, which is now known as historic King Solomon Baptist Church. Malcolm spoke at the historic King Solomon Baptist Church on November 10th, 1963, and gave the speech, Message to the Grassroots in America. Organizations that had organized around the murder of Cynthia Scott, one group at Wayne State University, Uhuru, and then another group of older activists, really a triumvirate of the Black Power movement in Detroit, Reverend Clegg, who of course changed his name to Jeramogi Abebe Ajiman, and the Henry brothers, Richard and Milton Henry, who will become the founders of the Republic of New Africa, and the Boggs, James and Grace Lee Boggs. So this triumvirate will organize another group called the Group on Advanced Leadership. And so you have Gold, Group on Advanced Leadership, and Uhuru planning this conference. And of course, Malcolm's speech was recorded, the Message to the Grassroots in America, which further brought a militant group or a militant level of protest here in Detroit. So by the next year, you have a political party called the Freedom Now Party. And Henry Clegg, Albert Clegg's brother, Reverend Albert Clegg, the Boggs, and the Henry brothers are the leaders and organizers of that, along with an attorney named Conrad Lynn. They're organizers of this organization. And so you have some incidents, but now you have organizations more militant than the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, ready to address these incidents that are happening. So they also bring Malcolm back to the same place in April 12, 1964, and he gives the ballot or the bullet speech. So you have the Freedom Now Party running for offices in 1964. You have Malcolm giving this ballot or the bullet speech talking about elections. And then you have in April 1966, Northern High School. In April 1966, Northern High School students walk out due to racism in the educational system, particularly at their school on the North End. And Reverend Clegg is one of the organizers of a freedom school for these students. We might need one of those again.
Yes, we do.
And so in August of that same year, 1966, there is no yet rebellion on 12th and Claremont yet, but these incidents are occurring. On Kercheval, there is a group of people who was a young man that's been shot by and killed by the police. And a group of people are ready to organize a rebellion about this because again, organizations, militant organizations have been politically educating the community. So some people are organized and ready to respond. Some people are just upset and ready to respond. And you have all that mix there, which is necessary for a rebellion or even a so-called riot to occur. And they arrest Glenn Dowdell and General Baker just on general principle. They don't even let them get involved in the protest because they assume that they're going to organize these groups of people into some kind of rebellion. And you've had summer uprisings in cities throughout the country already, in Newark, in Harlem, in Watts, and so everybody knows Detroit is coming. So, and on June 23rd, 1967, the Thomases, a veteran from Vietnam War, goes to River Rouge, and his wife. They go to River Rouge, and they're harassed by a white young mob. They call it the N-word. They're chased around the park, and they run to the, I guess they have a building. The park has a, you know, like a building that a community building, and they run to it, but it's closed. And the person that works there refuses to open the door. And they are now, the group has come down on these two black people, this man and his wife, and they are threatening to rape her and kill him. So, of course, the man runs up to them to try to prevent them from getting to his wife, and they shoot him in the back. He's murdered. And the wife, of course, is so scared she's not able to identify anybody. So no one goes to prison for this murder. In June 23rd, 1967, of course, 1 month later, is the rebellion. But even before that month is over, on June 1st, 1967, on 12th and Hazelwood, just a couple of blocks away from 12th and Claremont, Vivian Williams is killed by the police. And she is an alleged prostitute. And she's murdered, or she's shot by the police, and of course the community considers it murder. And it looks very much like the Cynthia Scott killing in 1963. So all of that is occurring. And so on July 23rd, 1967, when they raid this so-called Blind Pig, and Michael Lewis is organizing the crowd outside to resist the police, it's all part of this long story that the police called him green sleeves because he had a long sleeve, green long sleeve on, and it's July 23rd, it's hot. But when they try to arrest these people, and then they even try to apprehend him, but when the police officer tries to grab Michael Lewis, that police officer is hitting the head with a brick and sees stars and gets in his car and drives away. By the time they come back with reinforcements, well, of course, the community has reinforcements. And so the rebellion has started. But this is all, there's a long list of things that have occurred. There's not just all of a sudden on one day some black folks got mad and because a Blind Pig was being raided. This was a long list of grievances equal or comparable to what was going on in Boston, in New York, and Virginia in the 1760s and 1770s. So this was an uprising, this was a rebellion, a response to oppression. And we can point to specific incidents like I just did, or just the whole general climate of white supremacy that was occurring in Detroit at that time.